Severe floods have completely paralyzed the province of Tarragona in northeastern Spain. Heavy rainfall of more than 180 millimeters per square meter in just a few hours flooded entire towns, destroyed roads, and forced mass evacuations. The coastal towns of Lampala, L'Aldea, La Ràpita, and Godall were submerged, leading authorities to declare a regional state of emergency.
Ahí se tiene que ver otra acera y está.
From the early morning, Spain's National Weather Agency had already issued a red alert. Forecasts warned of extreme rainfall reaching up to 90 millimeters per hour over the Ebro Delta. But the intensity of the storm went far beyond what anyone expected. By midday, dark clouds had turned into a wall of rain. Drainage systems failed within minutes, and streets quickly became rivers. Floodwaters swept through homes, stores, and highways without warning. But the worst was yet to come. As the afternoon progressed, the situation in the Murcia region spiraled out of control. The AP7 highway, one of the main routes in northeastern Spain, was completely shut down. The road disappeared under half a meter of water, leaving vehicles stranded. Catalonia's traffic authority ordered diversions and warned drivers to leave the area. Other routes, such as the C12 and T331, were also closed due to flooding. Public transport was suspended, and train services between Tortosa and Tarragona were cancelled. Between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m., firefighters received more than 30 emergency calls. Most came from residents trapped in basements or vehicles. Emergency teams used rescue boats to reach people stranded on flooded streets. However, conditions worsened even more as night approached. The Catalan Civil Protection Agency activated its mobile phone alert system. The warning was clear: stay indoors, move to higher floors, avoid riverbanks and low areas. In La Ràpita, one of the hardest-hit towns, the fishing port disappeared under muddy water. Boats broke free from their moorings and drifted inland. Electric systems collapsed, and streets were filled with debris, mud, and broken materials. In just 6 hours, rainfall reached more than 195 millimeters. The lower neighborhoods turned into canals, leading directly to the sea. Residents were evacuated to sports halls that had been converted into temporary shelters. Meanwhile, the inland town of Godall faced a similar disaster. Streets were covered with thick, muddy water. Vehicles were trapped, and power outages affected the entire area. Sewage systems overflowed, and water started backing up through drains. City workers tried to pump the water out, but the rainfall continued relentlessly. Access roads became impassable, and phone networks began to fail. Emergency teams struggled to reach rural areas, completely isolated by the flood. Farther north, in Alcanar, the situation turned critical. The N340 highway was entirely shut down. Many vehicles were submerged, and several drivers had to abandon their cars. Authorities repeated the message: do not try to rescue your vehicle, move to higher floors. Firefighters and civil defense units worked non-stop through the night. Dozens of people were rescued from garages, homes, and trapped cars. Volunteers joined emergency teams to assist local families. But the rain did not stop. Through the night, torrential downpours continued across the province. The Ebro River began to rise rapidly, and hydrological services monitored it closely for possible overflow.
Ahí se tiene que ver otra acera y está.
Meteorologists confirmed that this was the heaviest rainfall in the Ebro Delta in more than 30 years. Because the terrain is flat and impermeable, water could not drain away quickly. Instead, it spread widely, creating massive flood zones across farmland and urban areas. Thousands of hectares of crops were destroyed. Olive groves, citrus trees, and greenhouses were completely lost. Agricultural losses quickly rose into the millions of euros. Catalonia's regional government activated its emergency flood plan, known as Inencat. Firefighters, civil protection, and even army units were deployed to assist in evacuations. Helicopters flew over rural areas of Murcia to monitor rising waters and coordinate rescues. As the storm shifted northeast, new alerts were issued for Etla de Mar and L'Aldea. These towns recorded more than 170 millimeters of rain in less than 12 hours. Schools were closed, and all non-essential activities were suspended. But the numbers kept rising. By sunrise, major infrastructure damage was confirmed. Bridges, local roads, and sections of the railway network were destroyed. Train service between Tarragona and Castellón was suspended indefinitely. Spain's Ministry of Transport sent engineers to assess the destruction. Preliminary reports estimated over 2,000 people evacuated and hundreds of homes damaged. Restoration of electricity and communication lines became the top priority. By the next day, rainfall finally started to weaken. Even so, civil protection maintained the high alert for landslides and ground collapses. Mud and debris covered city streets, and cleanup operations began immediately. Ports remained closed, roads were blocked, and large agricultural areas were unusable. Regional leaders requested that the government declare the area a disaster zone. Emergency funds were announced to help families and local businesses. Initial damage estimates surpassed 20 million euros. Entire crops were lost, stores destroyed, and public infrastructure severely damaged. For many residents, recovery could take months. But the land remained saturated. Meteorologists warned that any new rainfall could trigger another flooding event. Continuous monitoring of the Ebro Delta was ordered for the following days. In the week after the storm, the situation slowly stabilized. Water levels began to drop, and cleanup efforts expanded. Yet the full scale of destruction became clear. Destroyed roads, collapsed houses, and ruined farmland.
La otra acera está enterrada.
Authorities confirmed that this was one of the worst flooding events in Catalonia's modern history. Experts urged the government to reinforce drainage systems, build protective levees, and review urban planning. This disaster revealed the growing vulnerability of the Ebro Delta to climate change. Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more destructive across the Mediterranean. Spain now faces the urgent task of strengthening its infrastructure and emergency response capacity. The rain has finally stopped, but the impact remains. Economic losses, soil damage, and destroyed crops will take months to recover. This event will be remembered as one of the worst floods to ever hit Tarragona, a powerful reminder of how fragile coastal regions have become in a changing climate.